Okay, so this is where you get the chance to ask Carly. If you've got any property questions, investment questions, finance questions, whatever it is, throw them at me and I'll do my best to answer them for you. This week, interestingly enough, we have a few questions on the subject of property development. So the first question we have is actually from Kelly in New South Wales. And Kelly says, how do I find out whether the council contributions have been paid on a development site? Now, in New South Wales, those are known as your Section 94s, and they're called different things throughout Australia. Basically, it's your contributions that are payable on a development site, and they're usually payable around the time that you're going to get your CC issued, your construction certificate issued. It's important to know whether or not they have been paid, because if they haven't, you're going to cop that fee, and you need to make sure you're aware of it because it has to go into your feasibility. And contributions can be tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's not a small cost. It's basically the council saying, look, you can go ahead and build 9 units, but if you do so, then at the moment it's only one house and there's 3 people living in it. With 9 units, you know, that could be 20 or 30 people living in it. And so what we think is you should pay more contributions for the amenities of the local area. You know, your roads, your footpaths, your parks, and so forth. So that's what contributions are. Now, back to your question, how do you find out if they've been paid? Ask the vendor. Whoever owns the property should be aware whether or not the contributions have been paid. If you can't get a straight answer out of them, it's probably a clue as to, I mean, why wouldn't they know? If a real estate agent is selling the development site for you, to you, then they'll also usually be able to tell you if the contributions have been paid. If they don't know, they can find out for you pretty quickly. You can also go to your local council. You can get a copy of the DA, which actually lists what the contributions are going to be, and ask them, have they actually been paid? In some cases, you're going to get a real correct answer. In other cases, they may be a little bit unsure or not willing to give you the answer. But look, in most cases, I'd go back to just ask the bloke who currently owns the property. Mate, did you pay the contributions or didn't you? But great question, because you definitely want to know whether or not they've been paid. Next question. The next question is from Andy in Queensland. And Andy says, I'm looking into a property that is currently a raw site. If I option off the property in order to get a DA and the option runs out before I obtain the DA approval, what will then happen to the property? Andy, great question. Let's just clear a few things up here. First of all, a DA, a development application or approval. A raw site, this is basically a piece of land, a piece of property that has not yet had an approval from council to be turned into something else. So there is no approved DA on a property, then it's a raw site. It may have the potential, but not yet actually the approval. An option is a contract that you can use to basically control property without having to actually purchase the property. It's sort of like a lay-by for property. So if you can imagine you see something you like, you want to lay-by it, you put a deposit down, you can pay it off over time, or you can pay it off on an agreed upon time for an agreed upon amount in the future. Well, you can actually do the same with property. You can lay by, or option is actually the correct term, property. Now there's a couple of different types of option contracts. Preferably you want to go and option the property with the right but not the obligation to purchase that property. You'll usually pay a fee to option the property to put that in place. And then you now have a certain amount of time to either come up with finance or go and do further research, or in this case, in Andy's example, to go and actually get a DA approved on that property. It's a fantastic strategy to take away some of the risk involved in getting a DA on a property. You may not want to purchase a property just in case you don't get the DA approved. So put an option down, try and get the DA approved. If the DA gets approved, you might want to go ahead and purchase. If the DA doesn't get approved, well, if you've got the right but not the obligation to purchase the property through your option, if the DA doesn't get approved, you don't have to take that option up. If the DA does get approved, then you have the chance to purchase it if you like. A few things to look out for there. Be aware of what kind of option contract you're using. Make sure you understand all of the parameters involved in that contract and get your solicitor to go through it very clearly with you. Be aware that you'll probably end up losing that option fee. In most cases, they're not refundable. So whatever you're paying as an option fee, it's probably not going to get refunded if you don't go ahead and buy the property. So be aware that you're going to lose that option fee whether or not you go ahead and purchase the property in most cases. The other cost you have to be aware of is there is a cost in getting DAs done. You would have had to pay a town planner or an architect or a draftsman in putting together the plans, and you may have even also paid the council at this stage, so a lodgement fee to the council, a DA application fee, and that could be thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And if your DA isn't approved and you don't go ahead and purchase the property, you're going to lose that as well. So the idea of optioning and then getting a DA, it's a fantastic strategy, but understand what you're doing and be aware of the costs that you're putting in and that you could lose those if you don't go ahead and purchase the property. One more question here for Ask Carly, and this question is a pretty straightforward one. What are your 5 tips when you are doing a development? And that's from Susie in Victoria. Susie, 5 tips. I mean, there's so many things that I would say you need to be careful of, be aware of, be educated of when you are going to be developing property. First of all, understand how to do your feasibilities. Really get good at using a good feasibility software that's going to help you calculate what the costs are. Tip 2 would be, when doing a feasibility, always include a contingency. I'm talking about a contingency on your consultant's costs, contingency on your building costs. Really pad the numbers out to make sure that you are covering things that you can't think of. No matter how well you plan it, there will be costs that you're not aware of. Third tip would be research. Really research the property well, research the area well, know what it is that you're looking at and what it is that you're about to get into. Understand the land, understand the implications, have a look at the titles, have a look at any land tax implications, have a look at the slopage, the stormwater, the sewerage. Let's really start investigating and having a look at what we actually have in terms of this property. The fourth tip would be, use the right professionals. Don't try and do everything yourself. Use project managers, use engineers, town planners, architects, different people that understand what it is that they're doing at every single stage of property development. By using those people, you will have extra costs in those consultants. However, they can end up saving you a lot of money in the long term because they end up saving you money or saving you from making mistakes. So make sure that you do use the right consultants. And step 5 probably would be to go back to feasibility again and check it, double check it, triple check it, then get a second opinion and a third opinion. Really make sure that you understand your numbers, that the numbers are correct, that you've had somebody else check them, and you have researched every angle of that property. Those are 5 tips that I would throw out at you, but the biggest one would be, on an overall, get educated. Understand the subject that you're getting involved in, and that's really going to minimize a lot of your risk. I hope that's given you guys a few tips, and I hope for those 3 questions I've answered those questions for you.